You got to change your habits or change your goals.
Muay Thai is 50% running and 30% laundry.
Keep working on your game. Keep innovating.
I'm always winning.
What is your pro tip?
Hi, welcome to another Pro Tip conversation. My name is Chris, and today Anish and I are speaking with Linnea Eriksson. Linnea is a young, aspiring professional Muay Thai fighter originally from Sweden, now living in Thailand. She has trained Muay Thai in both Thailand and the Netherlands. She's early in her career with a record of 5-4-0 as an amateur and 1-2-0 as a pro. So we're going to discuss her journey thus far and get some insights into her life as a Muay Thai pro. So yeah, thanks for joining us, Linnea.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah, for sure. And yeah, just to get started, what kind of got you into Muay Thai?
So I think I always had like a natural draw to martial arts ever since I was a
Yeah.
kid. I was always like very obsessed with movies that had like fighting in it and things like that.
Yeah.
Like I was very obsessed with like action movies and all those kinds of things. But
Yeah.
I just lacked like I guess the like initiative to like make it happen and actually start training. So I always had it in the back of my mind that I wanted to do it, but I was like
Yeah.
too scared to actually try. So the years just kind of went on, and I knew there was a club near my where I lived, which did Thai boxing, and I tried to go a few times, but I would
Yeah.
always like turn back at the station because I would get too
Oh,
like
okay.
anxious and nervous.
Yeah.
So that just didn't go anywhere. And then what finally got me started was when I was like 22, and my boss at work, he had trained Muay Thai like when he was younger. And he was actually trained by a former world champion, so he had quite like a good understanding of Muay Thai, and he basically liked to just like introduce people to it. So he asked me like, "Do you want to try it?"
Uh-huh.
So he just held some pads for me, and like it was quite like incredible in a way because it was like the first time my fist hit the pad. I just knew that like this was it. It was like love
Yeah, I
at the
felt
first
right.
punch, you know.
Yeah.
So I just knew like this is my life now. This is all I'm going to be doing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was crazy. It was a very like strong experience. And then
Yeah.
after that, he trained me um for the first few months. He would like give me PT sessions for free, just like every week, and
Wow.
he just taught me the basics and really helped me to like learn the fundamentals quite quickly, and that
Yeah.
really helped me.
Did you have plans to compete when you first kind of, it sounded like maybe just go and just see what it was all about, but then did you develop ideas that you wanted to compete pretty early?
I think I am just a naturally competitive person. Like I don't like to do things if there's no competitive element, and I don't like to do
Yeah.
things if there's no like I always want to have like goals to work towards. So I
Yeah.
couldn't do it just for fun. Like a lot of people, they just like to do it and they just enjoy it and it's good form of exercise. But for
Right.
me that just doesn't like work. I have to have like something to aspire to. So I think immediately I kind of knew that I wanted to compete. Um, but of course, like over the course of my journey, it shifted between like what level I thought I could compete at. So those goals kept changing because like some periods I would be in a slump and I would think that, what I want isn't possible.
Mhm.
So that kind of went up and down, but I always knew I wanted to like be a fighter in one way or the other.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Um, and then, so I know now you're living and training in Thailand. Is that correct?
Yeah.
So Muay Thai has a pretty big impact on your life. So what have you talked to a little bit how,
Yeah.
yeah, how Muay Thai has changed your life now?
I mean, it has changed everything. I think I don't think there's pretty much anything left of like my old life or like my old self. I feel like it has like reinvented pretty much
Yeah.
everything. Um, I mean, not only the fact that like now I've moved to Thailand and I'm training and fighting and living that whole lifestyle, but also like I met my partner through Muay Thai and
Okay.
he's also a fighter. So
Yeah.
that's also like something that has given me. Um, and then also just like the way it has changed myself. I think when I started, I was quite like a weak-minded person. I was like very undisciplined. I didn't know how to be uncomfortable. Like I didn't like whenever something was uncomfortable, I would just run away from it or like,
Yeah.
try to get rid of it. And I would always kind of give in to my weaknesses. And that is something that I've really learned to like overcome through Muay Thai and just like learning how to try hard at things and how to be consistent and disciplined. And that kind of spills out into everything.
Yeah. Yeah. It
Yeah.
does last, what, 15 seconds of every round are really uncomfortable.
Yeah, they are for sure.
Tired. Yeah. Um, did you play or were involved in other sports, or was this kind of the start of that for you?
I've tried like every sport there is pretty much when I was younger. Like, yeah, I would try a lot of sports, but I would last like 2 weeks. It was just, I
Okay.
just couldn't get myself to be interested or, like I said, like motivated or disciplined enough to continue. And like I did horse riding and things like that, but that's kind of a physically
Yeah.
lazy sport, let's be honest, because the horse is doing all the moving. Um, but yeah, I also kind of viewed myself as like a really unathletic person. I just
Oh,
identified as an unathletic person. I thought that was not something that you could change. Like I, like a lot of people believe that you were kind of born with this like innate physical ability, um,
right.
and like some kind of athletic talent, which you can definitely have for sure. But I mean, most of it is cultivated, obviously. So I just
Right.
thought like, oh, I'm weak, I'm slow, I have no motorical skills, and that will never change. So
Yeah.
I'm never going to be good at it, so why try?
Yeah.
That was kind of my thought process.
So I guess what was it about Muay Thai that changed that perspective for you as compared to other sports?
Well, I think because I got someone to teach me like the technique and like really show me and explain things in like a personal environment, and I really like made me understand how sports work and how like athletic performance works. And the fact that they was so focused on like technique in the beginning, it was not focused on like physical performance. It wasn't like, oh, now you have to run like 10 miles. It was just like, okay, well, now we're just going to focus on like how do we punch, and we do, these are the mechanics. And that's something everyone can do. So that kind of like just got me into understanding that, like, also the fact that in Muay Thai you don't really talk about like brute strength or those kinds of things in the beginning. It's very focused on like the power comes from the movement, like the power comes from the technique, and you don't have to be strong to punch hard if you just have like correct technique. So I think that kind
Yeah.
of like dissolved a lot of my like previous thoughts. Yeah.
Interesting. Yeah, and I think we'll jump into in a later section, the coaching influences that you've
Yeah.
already touched upon. I did want to ask you a bit about, the big move to Thailand and, as
Yeah.
you said, changing your life from what it was before, right? So, what inspired you to move to Thailand?
So I think that was something that I always wanted, like ever since I went to Thailand the first time. I went quite early to Thailand actually. I'd only trained for like 4 months or something. And then I went to Thailand for a month and did like a training camp. And that was also like an incredibly like life-changing experience. And I just really loved everything about Thailand and like just being immersed in like Muay Thai and the culture around Muay Thai. Um, so I think that was just always like something I wanted to do. Um, I felt that very strongly from the start. But then, you know, like a lot of things get in the way and a lot of things don't turn out the way you want. And like I went to Thailand twice and I tried to stay there longer, but there was just so many things that like went wrong, things I didn't plan on happening. So, and then I kind of like also got into like a mental slump after my third trip here. Just a lot of things hadn't gone the way I wanted, and yeah, I just had like a really bad period, and I was kind of like getting to a point where I was thinking like maybe maybe I'll just have to lower my bar. Like maybe I just can't expect this much for myself. Like maybe I should just do it like casually, like as like an amateur, and that's all I'm gonna like amount to, and I'll just have to accept that. Um, but then, you know, when you really have something that you dream about and something that you really, really want to do, like it doesn't matter how much you try to close your eyes to it or try to like explain it away, because like your brain is saying one thing but your heart is just saying another thing, and that like I feel like that I can't ignore it at the end of the day. And it just eventually I realized that like anything that would go wrong or anything that wouldn't turn out how I wanted would be much better than living the rest of my life like regretting that I didn't do it. No, that would be
Right.
the worst thing.
Yeah.
And so when did yeah
Yeah.
So when did you I guess how long have you been in Thailand?
I've been in Thailand for 6 months, and we're about to do like an education visa, which will give us another year, and then like we don't really have any plans of going
Sure.
back, so we'll see how many years we end up staying. But yeah, that's the plan right now.
And then when was your first trip versus now this move 6 months ago?
It was in 2019, so that's
Okay.
5 years ago. Yeah.
Yeah, so that it's a long time in the making.
Yeah,
so that's
it
awesome.
has been.
Yeah.
Mm.
How has it been adjusting to a new country and the new culture? I know you said you've been here since a couple of times since 2019.
Yeah, so I've been in 3 times before, and I think all the cultural shocks and everything, I've already like worked those out in the previous trips, you know. And I definitely had like some very good experiences, some very bad experiences in Thailand, that I learned a lot from. And I guess one thing that I learned is that, you know, like it's nice when you see like people try to really fit in and they really like want to be like part of the Thais, and they want to like, you know, they learn the language and they like spend a lot of time with Thai people, and that is like a really nice thing. But a lot of times it can be very difficult to like fully integrate with Thai society and Thai people. There is like a very clear divide there, which is like unfortunate, but I think that is in most countries. Like it will be difficult to fully like intermix, you know. Um, and I think I had a lot of bad experiences with that. So I think what this time around, I kind of view myself as like I am a visitor, I'm a guest. Like I am not like going to be fully a part of this country. Like this is not my country, you know. So I try to keep it a little bit separate. Um, but there's a lot of things I really love about Thailand and love about like their way of life and way of thinking, and you know, yeah, I like a lot of things about Thailand, but yeah, at the end of the day, I'm Swedish, and like I am, you know, I am a Farang, and always will be. But yeah, I think like the one thing that is very different is like the disorder, like because in Sweden everything is very like structured and organized, and that is very like important, you know. If you say you're going somewhere at 3 o'clock, then you're there 3 o'clock on the dot, you know. And it's very like, yeah, clean and organized, and almost to its own detriment sometimes. Like people are a little bit too stiff and too like put together. But Thailand here, I mean, it's just like it's like organized chaos, I guess, but it's just very chaotic. Everything is all over the place, but it's quite relieving as well. Like there's a certain level of freedom in that chaos as well, which I like. Yeah.
Cool. How has it been different training in Sweden, and I know you trained in Netherlands as well, versus in Thailand?
So there's definitely a lot of differences, and you can see like the influence of like how the different like systems are set up. Like in Sweden, everything is volunteer work pretty much. So all the trainers are just volunteering and they're not getting paid. And all the like clubs are basically not like, most of them are not run like companies, they're run like organizations, you know. So they're just not there to like make a profit or anything. And you have to pay to compete. You don't get paid unless you're like the absolute top, and you maybe, but there was only like a few galas every year, so you can't really make much money from it. So because of that, everything is just done for like the love of Muay Thai and just because people think it's fun. And of course, that changes like the focus and the dynamic. It's more focused around like people having fun and people like, you know, learning and enjoying themselves. And so that definitely changes things. It makes things like a little bit softer, you know, which is not a bad thing. But I think when you fight, that can be a problem because, you know, you really need to be challenged mentally and physically. And fighting is not a nice sport. You're not nice to each other in the ring, so you can't be nice to each other in sparring either a lot of times. So yeah, I think it was definitely a lot softer, which could also be shown. You could see that in the fighting a lot as well. And also it's more like focused around the amateur
and then
scene. So
I guess when you moved to Thailand, oh sorry,
Mm-hmm.
did I cut you off?
Oh no, I didn't.
Apologies.
Sorry, it was like maybe some delay. Sorry.
Yeah, that's right. So I wasn't sure if you were finished yours, but I was gonna ask, when you moved to Thailand, how did you pick your gym?
Oh, so I'd been there before, training. I initially went to that gym because Brooke Farrell was the one of the founders, but she has opened a new gym in Mexico now, so she's not there anymore. But yeah, I just really liked Powerhouse because it has like a Western style of training. They're not gonna like just do things the traditional way. It's a little bit more, I feel like it's a little bit more backed by like sports science. And there's more like thought put into it. And also because it's owned by a Westerner, you always have someone to like talk to and who understands like your way of thinking, I think. Something that I appreciate. And then just they always have like good trainers. They always have like good ways of training, and they're very like supportive of fighters. And yeah, I just think it's been great, honestly. Yeah, it's a good gym.
And then what's life like at your gym?
So I don't live at the gym, but yeah, we train twice a day if we have a big fight coming up. But other than that, like it's quite relaxed. Like I think some gyms they might like force you to train a certain way, but Powerhouse it's a little bit more up to you. Like if like yeah, if, do you want to train well or do you want to not train well? It's like it's up to you, you know, what level do you want to put it at. But if you have a big fight, and of course you have to follow a schedule, but I like that there's a little bit more freedom to kind of feel like what your body needs at that moment, and nobody's just like whipping you and forcing you to do things. But yeah, we train like 1.5 hours to 2 hours twice a day, most days if you have like a fight coming up.
Yeah. And how frequently do you get to fight?
So I haven't been able to fight as often as I wanted to. Like back in Sweden, I would fight every month, sometimes twice a month. Here, I've only fought 3 times in 6 months, so that's very little for me. I like to fight more regularly than that because I kind of feel like I lose touch with it a little bit if it's too long. But yeah, I've just had like injuries and things that got in the way, and then obviously my last fight took like 2 months because they kept pushing the date back, so I just kept being in camp for like forever. So yeah, but I hope to fight a little bit more frequently now.
Yeah. So, and when you are competing, what is your sort of? You kind of said a little bit. What's like a typical training day like when you're preparing for a competition?
Yeah. So just wake up at like 7. Just get dressed, go to training, train for like 1.5 hours. I usually get some like meal prep or something. Just eat, and then relax. And I work with social media. So I just like work on my phone for a few hours, and then yeah, just get ready, go back to training. I'll train for 2 hours, and then come home, try to muster up the energy to cook something, and then like watch a few episodes of some show, and then sleep and do it all again. Now it's very repetitive.
Yeah. Is it a lot of? Is it primarily
pad
work and sort of sparring? Oh yeah. Yeah. Is the training that you
Yeah,
do
so we
itself, is it a lot of,
do.
I was gonna say, yeah, sorry, we have a little bit of a delay. Yeah, I was gonna ask about what the training was, if it was pad work, sparring, that kind of stuff.
Mm, yeah, so we do like, of course, warm up is like shadow boxing. Then we do pad work, 5 rounds usually, and then we also do drills for quite a lot of time as well. We do like half an hour to 40 minutes of drills, which is really
Yeah.
good. A lot of defense. We work a lot on defense, and then we do sparring for like 5 rounds, and then clinching for like 30 minutes or so. Mm.
And do you find it challenging sort of, I mean, you mentioned a little bit about some injuries. Just wondering, how do you balance that? Training hard enough to be prepared to compete while
Mm.
still maintaining good health and not getting hurt?
That's a very hard balance, and I think it took me a long time to like work that out. And I had a lot of injuries because of like not taking care of that.
Yeah.
I think it's just like it's very difficult because like I said before, fighting is not easy, and you need to train hard, and you need to really like you know just challenge yourself. So it's difficult sometimes to challenge yourself and also not break down your body, and
Right.
especially with like at the same time we also have to diet and things like that, so we can't properly like fuel ourselves, and of course
Yeah.
that also leads to injuries more easily. But I just try to like feel like where my limits are, and you know yeah, just try to take care of myself a little bit more, and just try to talk to my coach and like ask him like, do you think it's a good idea for me to train with this, like this injury, or like this problem. And if I really feel like I need like to take a rest or something, I'll maybe like opt for some other kind of training that is a little bit like easier on my body. Like maybe I'll go for a run, or maybe I'll go do some strength training or something like that. So
Yeah.
just try to like work my way around things. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. That makes sense. Um, do you have a kind of a pre-fight routine before a competition?
So if I know who my opponent is, I'll often do like a lot of research on them.
Okay.
I'll look on like social media and things and their previous fights. I'll look at a lot on their previous fights, try to figure out like how they like to fight and what techniques they like like to use, and like if they lost, then why did they lose, and if they won, then why did they win, and try to think about those things. And then I also visualize a lot, and I'll like, especially when I do the research as well, I'll try to find like weaknesses. I'll try to like find things in their personality which I think you like I can use as some sort of weakness. Because I also tend to like build my opponents up as kind of like invincible and like very scary in my mind. It's just like an automatic response, so I kind of have to like break that down slowly, like before the fight,
Yeah.
and like try to like make them human. So that really helps me to like look at them like doing everyday things, or um, looking at them like from different angles, and then I'll visualize a lot, so I get used to like their face and their body, and um, I'll just imagine like being in the ring with them a lot,
Yeah.
and just different scenarios and how I would deal with those things. And then um yeah, like when like right before the fight, I like to listen to music that kind of gets me in the zone, shadow box, and just try to like get into that like fighter zone.
Yeah. Yeah. I was
um
going to ask that question about, like, I know like for competitions, it's often common to get sort of some butterflies
mm,
or some anxiety.
yeah,
Just kind of how you
yeah,
manage that before a competition.
I think I like to talk about it. Like I always like to speak about my feelings like
Yeah.
outright. It helps me to make them less dramatic. But um I think I also just like know that that is like a part of it, and you can't really get rid of it. You're always gonna feel that like
Yeah.
existential dread,
Right.
and that's normal. And I know that like once I'm in the ring, I always tell myself like I know that once I'm in the ring, I'm gonna feel fine, and I know that like I also like to think back on like previous fights and previous experiences, and just see that like every single time I've been in there, I've been able to deal with it. I've never I've never been knocked out. I've never been knocked down. I've never ended up like beaten up in the corner. Like I've always like um stayed like strong in my fights.
Yeah.
So I just try to like remind myself of that. Like I'm not going to end up in a bad situation because I'm like I can deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I really like the idea of visualizing knocking the lights out of your opponent.
Yeah.
That's a good one.
Yeah.
So,
But
so then I guess after you have all of this experience, after a fight, do you have a way you like to celebrate or unwind or kind
I
of
always
come?
plan something because that's something I can hold on to as well. Like if when I'm anxious, I always just like I'll talk to my partner or something and be like, okay, like I'm like anxious. After the fight, we're gonna go to the buffet. We're gonna go do this. We're gonna watch this show. You know, like we're gonna relax in the hotel room. Like I always have to have like a like something to like look forward to. Like okay, when it's done, we're gonna go do this fun stuff. I'm
Yeah.
not gonna be
Right.
dead. It's gonna be fine.
Yeah.
You know. So yeah, just I like to have like maybe going to like a restaurant, get some takeout, or just like watch a show. You know,
Yeah.
just like I don't really like to go out party and stuff. But yeah, just like something that is enjoyable
Yeah.
after the
That makes
fight.
sense.
Yeah.
And then, someone recently competed at Lumpini. Is that right?
Yeah.
So you can tell us
Last
just a
week.
little bit about that experience.
Mm. Yeah, it was great. Like I was of course extremely anxious before this fight because not because I was like scared of my opponent because I wasn't at all actually, but because like it was just such a big stage and like the TV cameras and like just kind of
Yeah.
making my first because like the stadium fights nobody really cares about those, you know, so it's very anonymous, it's very nice in that way. It's just like nobody remembers what happened and nobody gives a shit. So um they're just like good for practice, but like this was like my first official debut kind of like as a pro fighter. It's the first time I like showed my face um on the screen, so that was very nerve-wracking.
Yeah.
But I was surprised at like how easy it was. Like you just got used to the cameras, and I didn't think about them at all. Really, I was very comfortable in
Yeah.
that setting. But it was nice. It was very nice. I really like being on stage, so I thought it was fun.
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then, sort of changing gears a little bit, I was wondering if you could share with us maybe like a bad experience or a worst performance, and maybe kind of something that you learned from kind
Mm.
of having a not so great day.
Yeah, so I think that would honestly be my first ever like competition, and that
Uh-huh.
was in like I think 2020 or something like that. It was like when I just started out, and I was still like very much a beginner. And it was like a light contact match, so it was like you have like the the gear on and everything, and you're not allowed to go hard, so it's basically just like sparring in a ring.
Okay. Yeah.
So it's not full contact at all. So it's like kind of like a practice match. But to me, of course, it was like a really big deal because I had never fought any way before, so that was a huge
Sure.
thing
Yeah.
to me. And so I went up against some like I just injured my knee like 2 weeks before, so my knee was like really in a bad way. Um, and I went up against a woman who was like very experienced. She was like a trainer, and she was like very fit, and she was older, very experienced. So she just kind of like I did my best, but she just kind of like out techniqued me, basically just demolished me. And like I did not deal with that well at all. Like I did not know how to lose. I did not like understand
Okay.
like the utility of
Yeah.
failure. So I just completely just imploded. I thought like, okay, because I lost, that means I'm a loser. I'm a failure. This means I can never be good at this. Like I went through all those like wrong
Oh
ways
yeah.
of thinking.
Yeah.
And I actually spiraled into like a depression for the months to come. I was just like completely like broken down by it. Because I thought that like that winning was everything. I didn't understand um that by learning things you have to fail and you have to lose, and that
Right.
is actually not a bad thing at all. But yeah, I didn't understand that at the time, so I was very demoralized by that.
Yeah.
Um,
How'd you
yeah.
recover from that, or what got you kind of feeling confident again?
Well, it's funny because I just I realized shockingly that you're not just going to like automatically win at everything because of some like
Yeah.
natural born talent and because you're so special. I realized, oh, you actually have to work hard at something for years
Yeah.
to learn and master it. Like it's like I thought somewhere in my mind that like uh I was just gonna get everything I wanted without having to try, And you realize like you see all these other people working hard and you realize that like no, I mean all these people are trying and working hard for years and years and you think you're just gonna get it like handed to you. That's
Yeah.
just not how it works, And
Yeah.
just realizing that it really changed my perspective, like and then I realized, okay, I gotta like get to work if I want this.
I've
At
I've
that
heard
at that
some similar stories from different fighters about beginning Muay Thai and competing. There's a point in the beginning where you get comfortable and you start to feel pretty good, and then you
Hmm.
get in the ring with someone who's been doing it for years,
Yeah.
and suddenly
Yeah.
you realize that this sport goes a lot deeper. It can be a
Yes,
bit of
exactly.
a wake up wake up call. Yeah.
at that moment when you were feeling low,
Mm.
for you to get to that realization, did you have any coaches or mentors that you relied upon that helped you through it, or were you kind of going through it sort of on your own?
No, I didn't, and it's a shame because I think although I managed to work it out slightly on my own, like it was a lot of heartache and a lot of pain in between, and that was quite unnecessary. And the
Mhm.
trainers that I had around me at the time, they did not have the tools to help me deal with that, and they did not understand it. So I feel like if I had had like the coach that I found later, if I had had him around me at that time, he would have been able to, like, I don't think I even would have ended up in such a bad place because he would have already explained these things to me from the start and just, you know, he would have made me understand that much sooner. So if I had had a coach with me at the time who would have helped me through it, it would not have been so painful. That's for sure.
Yeah. And I guess it's a testament to your passion for Muay Thai that you stuck with it after that, right? I mean, a lot of
Yeah.
people may have said, you know what, this is not for me, and move
Yeah.
on to doing something else, right? And yeah, kudos to you for sticking with it.
Yeah. Yeah, I am quite happy that I did because there were a few times, where it felt like there was just like too many obstacles in my way, but yeah, I couldn't I loved it too much to ever let it go.
Yeah. What do you think is the toughest part about being a active fighter?
Well, I think the fact that it never gets easier, like it's just always hard. And that's like one of the good things about it because you don't get bored. It's always stimulating. It's always like fun in that way. But of course, it's always hard. So you're just constantly struggling against something. And yeah, just as soon as you start to get comfortable, you've already started to go into the next like challenge to the next level. So it's always hard. It's never easy, and yeah, that's both a good thing, but it can also be like tough sometimes.
Yeah. And what are your plans for? Like you said a little bit, you're going to stay in Thailand a bit longer. So what are your plans for Muay
Yeah.
Thai? I guess next year.
So I mean, I'm just gonna like try to fight as much as I can, and like after I have maybe two stadium fights here, I maybe want to try to fight at Fairtex again.
Yeah.
And just try to like, yeah, keep fighting, um, fighting bigger and bigger fights, and like hopefully eventually just, I mean, of course everyone will say that, but one championship is always the goal, for like any fighter in Thailand, especially now with one Lumpini, it has become a lot easier to reach than it was before. Because one Singapore, of course, is like another level. But yeah, that is of course my goal, but I'm not going to uh, like jump too far ahead. I still have a lot to do before that. point.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's funny when you mentioned that it's always hard. A quote came to me from one of the basketball coaches that I've heard on Instagram, which is like, you know, things don't get easier. You just start doing hard better, and that you just get better at handling the hard things. And I think it's so true for any sport, really. Like as there's depths to it, right? So, switching topics a bit and going back to, I guess, your earlier point about the coach that you eventually found, you know, who have been your biggest coaching influences?
So I obviously have to give like thanks to my current coach, you know, because he is the one that is currently coaching me, and he's the one that's like investing in me. So I have to, you know, put that on record. Like, you know, he's you know, the head coach of Powerhouse, and he's really great. But I think, of course, when you're starting out, the coach that you kind of start your journey with will always be a little bit special. You know, it's like kind of like your first romantic relationship. It's like that's always a little bit special in your heart, you know. So my first coach, my first real coach, his name is Carl, and yeah, I found his gym, which is quite small, um, quite late in my journey. It was like 3 years in, and that's when I like just was starting to like break into fighting and everything. And he really just he has studied a lot of sports science, studied a lot of like leadership and coaching. So he really also has like a scientific background. He understands these things um, from like a deeper level. I think a lot of coaches, they will kind of just go on their gut feeling, or just go like kind of with what their coaches taught them, and sometimes those things maybe are not that productive or useful. But he really has like a lot of knowledge and personal experience as well. So he would help me a lot with like the mental aspect, you know, and he would really teach me to prioritize things like recovery and structuring my training, and um, also work on like mental aspects of sports, you know, and how to get through those difficult times, and how to build like mental resilience and strength. Um, so yeah, he was a very good coach.
Awesome. And I guess, what's the best advice you've received from a trainer?
So I think like two things that he said to me, which really stuck with me, was first of all, he said, you know, that, you know, but first of all, just the fact that he believed in me, like whenever there was a challenge, which technically on paper was too big for me to overcome, he would always believe that I could do it. And like, and even if I failed or didn't pull through, he would still believe it for the next time. Like he would never lose faith in me, which I think was very good, because like of course you lose faith in yourself sometimes, and it's important to have one person who always has like a bigger vision for you, and just always believes that you can overcome those things. So that was really helpful. And then also that he would always tell me, like, you have to believe in yourself, like you have to genuinely believe that you can do anything, and like it doesn't matter if it's true or not, but you just have to believe it. You know. So he would say, he was like, oh, I believe like that I could beat Mike Tyson right now, you know, like, or any fighter in the world. I could fight, you know, anyone, and I believe that I can win even if I can't. It's like, you know, you just have to have that strong faith in yourself. And I think that is really useful as well. Especially as a fighter, I think you have to have a lot of confidence in yourself. And then the second thing was that he would encourage me, and this sounds like kind of weird, I guess, to people who don't fight, but he would tell me, like, be mean. Like in the fight, like you have to be mean, like, and you have to be evil, and you have to like really try to hurt the other person. And yeah, that sounds but that is the sport we're doing, you know. And that is something that I think was really useful for me, because I think as a woman, you're very much molded and shaped to repress any parts of you that might be mean, or might be like um, unpleasant in any way, or negative, as you would call it. And I think you kind of need to be given permission to bring those things out of you. And like aggression as well is not something that's really encouraged, I think, for women, or for anyone really, but especially for women. So I think like he gave me permission to bring that side out of me into the fight, and that really helped me
That's awesome.
get better at fighting.
That's awesome.
Mm.
And I guess on that note, what do you think makes a successful trainer?
So I think for sure you have to have a lot of personal experience. Yeah, I think you just have to have like a very deep knowledge of the sport that you're practicing. I think it's very difficult to be a good coach if you haven't truly lived that life, you haven't truly like gone through all of the process. So you have to have like a lot of experience, and then I think you need to be willing to learn still. Like you need to kind of approach coaching as you approached your sport. You know, you have to be willing to learn and have to be willing to develop. I think, yeah, there's a lot of coaches out there that think that they know how to do everything and they're not really willing to adapt, you know. And they maybe don't adapt according to the person. They just apply like the same way of doing things to everyone. And that's obviously not going to work because we're all so different. We learn different. And yeah. So just being like flexible, I think is really important. And listening, like listen to your athletes as well. Of course, we have to listen to you, but you also have to listen back a little bit because sometimes your athletes will tell you things which you need to like understand, or things that maybe you can't see, or yeah. So definitely listen, and definitely like make sure that you like, I think it's very important as a coach to like think about group dynamics and things like that as well, and to make sure that you like create a friendly environment, or like a welcoming environment for everyone in the group. And because you can see like some trainers, they will like play favorites, and they'll maybe like, you know, treat some students very well because maybe they excel, and then maybe the students aren't doing as well, they'll treat them worse, and things like that. And I don't think that harbors a very good like environment for learning.
Yeah. Makes a ton of sense. We're gonna get into a last couple of questions before the rapid fire round. What's something that surprised you about Muay Thai when you first got into it?
I was very surprised to see very muscly grown men wearing tiny silk shorts. That was very surprising to me. I was like, what are they wearing? That looks so silly. Now, of course, I love those shorts, but like in the beginning, I was like, I saw Powerhouse fighting. I was like, why is he wearing those? But yeah, other than that, Jesus. I guess I was surprised at how long it takes to learn this. Like, I am still kind of like, just like, how do you wrap your head around this? It just takes so long to learn it. And I mean, mastery, I feel like, is something that is just a lifetime amount of work, you know? So yeah, just like how long it takes and how much you have to do to get to a certain point. Because like in the beginning, I thought like, oh yeah, I'll be world champion in like 2 years. No problem, you know. I was very naive. Yeah.
And then, do you have any tips or advice for folks who want to get into Muay Thai and compete? And I'll add an additional caveat to that, and specifically for, I guess, female fighters, if you have any tips.
Yeah, so in general, I would say, and this sounds contradictory, but I would say listen to other people, but also be able to advocate for yourself. Like, I think, especially as a female fighter, it can be quite difficult because you get quite like, women are usually not like as assertive, maybe with like putting forth their own like ideas and their own will, and they'll often be like, okay, yeah, you probably know better than me, you know. So they'll kind of like be molded by maybe coaches and training partners and stuff around them. What I learned was, and I'm still learning, is that you also have to trust like your own instincts. Like, for example, when it comes to developing your fighting style, like I've been kind of torn by a lot of different like directions when it comes to my fighter style, and I'm finally starting to like realize like who I am in fighting and who I need to become. And that is not maybe always in line with what coaches want, for example. So I think sometimes you have to like advocate for the direction that you think you need to be going. But in the beginning, you definitely just need to shut up and listen to like people who know better, because a lot of people like watch some YouTube video or something and then they think they know what they should be doing, you know. And a lot of people will like try to emulate other people. Like maybe they'll see like a fighter they like and they'll try to like emulate that style, even though it doesn't suit their body type, it doesn't suit their temperament. You know, they can't really do it that well. So just try to like see what is your body type, what are you naturally good at. Try to like develop those things, and for God's sake, working on your defense, because I didn't do that for like the first 4 years. So that's not very good. Work on your defense.
Yeah.
I guess just to follow up on that, you mentioned, figuring out your fighting style. Did you find that trying different advice in, I guess, live action, did that end up helping you kind of form that to a certain extent, even if at times it didn't serve you well, but then at least you were like, okay, I'm not doing that again.
Yeah.
Thing, right?
Yeah, I think it's definitely in the beginning of your fighting career, you should test a lot of things out. And like my coach back home, he would always say, like, you could take a fight and just work on your jab. Like, you're gonna lose, but that's fine. Like, at least you worked on your jab. Like, sometimes you maybe just need to fight just to learn something or just to try something out, and it doesn't work, but that's fine. Like, if you're just thinking about winning, of course that's not gonna work for you. But if you have like a grander vision, then that could be a win in itself. So definitely I've tried, like in my last fight, for example, in the first round I tried to do like what my coach wanted me to do, and in the rest, like, he was like, okay, screw it, just go do like what you usually do. Screw it, it's not working, and I really tried, but it's just not me, so then we learned. I did some things in my last fight which I'm proud of, that I would have never done before, because I learned those things in camp, and I drilled those things, and I tried to change certain things in my style. But at the end of the day, it's like, I think that is not the direction I need to be going. I need to focus a little bit more on what I am naturally good at.
Yeah. So it's almost like a tug and pull of pushing your boundaries, but then knowing what's the right thing for you, right? So
it's like you don't want to just do the same thing every fight either, because you become predictable and people know exactly how to counter you, eventually. So you need to definitely change things, but there's like different styles in Muay Thai. You talk about like different categories, and you usually will fall into one of those, like, pretty much.
Cool.
All right, so we got a few final questions for you. Just quick, easy questions. What is your favorite exercise?
Wow, that's hard. Favorite exercise? I mean, I guess I would just say like hitting pads. I mean, it's like it feels great. I love the sound. You feel powerful. Nobody's really hitting you back. It's great. So you're just winning.
Yeah.
It's nice.
And how about the least favorite exercise?
Oh, Jesus. That's hard. Before I would have said clenching, but now I'm starting to enjoy it a little bit more.
Okay.
Before I definitely would say clenching, but now, I like it. I don't know, just sprints, I guess.
Yeah.
They're pretty bad. Yeah.
Do you have a favorite pair of gloves or favorite pair of Muay Thai gear?
I really like the Boone bag gloves, because like they're very good quality. I had mine for like 2 years. I used them all the time, and now they're starting to break, but like 2 years is pretty good for something you use like every day. And they're very comfortable and just really good gloves.
Yeah. And then what's the best local Thai food by you?
Wow, that's hard actually. I don't know. Jesus.
Okay.
How is that the most difficult question? You guys about like what food do you like? I guess I really like a good satay, like with peanut sauce. It's good. Yeah.
Picking best is hard, right? Because it's like, what is the best? Then do you have a pre-fight meal? Go-to pre-fight meal?
fast carbs. Like, don't be scared of fast carbs before you fight. Like, I've seen people eat like
Yeah.
protein bars and stuff. I'm like, what are you doing? No, like sugar-free protein bars is not what you should be eating before you fight. Just eat like I've eaten like jelly donuts and stuff before my fights. Like, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. It's just sugar, fast carbs. That's what you
You're gonna burn it off. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
Okay. Well, and thanks so much for your time. That's all the questions we have for you.
Oh, really?
And
Nice.
yeah, and for the folks watching, if you like these videos, please like and subscribe. It helps us get more of them out. Yeah, and thank you so much, Linnea.
Yeah, thank you so much for having me. It was great.